my family doctor said, hey, we're treating you for whatever we're doing for you for health purposes. It'd be a great idea if you got a blood test. So I got a blood test. And I looked for allergies and stuff like that. And found out a couple little things about allergies. I fixed that up. He says, you know what? A good idea if you get a test for DNA. We'll find out what your ethnic background is and see if there's any propensity to heart disease or cancers or whatever.
So
Very smart.
Yeah, whatever.
Very smart.
So we did
Very
that.
smart.
So my wife was the first one that did this. And she says, when are you going to do it? And he said, do it economically. Just do Ancestry.com. Instead of spending thousands of dollars another way. That appealed to me. So she got the test done. And she was amazed with what she found out. She said, when are you going to do it? I said, I'll do it. Finally, she bought the kit, and I spit into the container and sent it off. And I was sitting at the dining room table, and when the report comes in, it says your report is in. Has anybody done this yet, by the way?
I have.
Okay, so you know how they. So I'm sitting at the dining room table, and in my house I have the dining room and I have the living room off, it spills off to the side. My wife's sitting in the living room chair, and I start laughing because you got to understand my name is Monahan, and my mother's name is O'Brien, and I have a whole family tree from both families of Monahans that trace back to Ireland and Scotland. So I start laughing, and she says, "What are you laughing about?" And I said, well, my DNA report just came in. What is it, she says. I said, well, practically 50% Eastern European Jew. And she jumps out of the chair. She runs over and she looks at the computer.
Are you sure? She said, are you sure?
And it, they give you the little pie chart and they give you the bar chart. And yeah, there it is. And so she said, well, I knew it, she says. Something's odd about you or whatever. So I knew with that percentage that it was probably a parent. So I waited a few days and I decided to go talk to my neighbor because my neighbor would know.
Yeah, my neighbor would too.
My neighbor's my.
That's my neighbor.
My neighbor.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but my neighbor's. My neighbor's my mom.
Continue. Continue.
So I walk across the yard because I moved my mom into a house next door to me because she's 90 years old. And we take care of her. So I walk over and I say, hey mom.
Surprise.
I took a DNA test and I said, man, it was fascinating. I said, there's an Eastern European Jewish background I have. Who in the family of the Monahans and the O'Briens are Jewish? She says, Israel. Nobody but that. And I said to her, you sure? Because I've looked at the family tree and I've looked at names and I thought it was somebody, no? She says, no, maybe it's a mistake. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to take the test again if it's a mistake. No, I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, better yet, I'm going to talk to my brother, your other son, and I'm going to have him take the test. And so she kind of blew that off.
Did you think you knew?
Oh, I knew.
I would.
So
She wasn't talking.
No questions to the end. No questions to the end.
I don't blame her. I don't
So
blame her.
it took me months to talk to my brother. He's older than I am. He's kind of like Steven, but, and and so his name is Don. And I said, Don, this is the circuit. I don't want to take the test. I saw you come home from the hospital. You're our mother's son. I said, that's not the issue. I want to know why I got the DNA Eastern European. He said, okay, I'll take the test. So he waits until, you think he was Jewish, he's waiting until the discount.
Okay.
Found that funny?
Point well taken.
You're not getting cake.
So I talk him into it. He takes the test. He months, about 6 weeks roll by, and he calls me up. He says, "I got the results." I said, "What are they?" He says, "I'll send them to you." So he emails me the results, and he's all Irish,
Of course.
Scotland, and some other things.
Is he
Western
your only
Europe.
sibling, Tom?
No, I have an older brother, older sister, and a younger brother.
Okay.
And the three of us.
Jimmy.
Yeah, but I didn't know that yet. So,
Wait for it.
so I walked next door to talk to my neighbor. And I said, "Mom, Don, your other son took the test." "Oh, what happened?" I said, "He's Irish, Scottish, and Western European descent." "Oh, so that perplexes me. How am I Eastern European Jew?" She just kind of shrugs her head, and that's it. So I get in the car, I leave her house, I get a phone call. "Tom, this is your mom." I was just there. She says, "I need to talk." I said, "Well, go ahead. I'm on my way to such and such location." "No, I need to talk to you in person," she says. So I said, "What about?" "Well, all that stuff about genealogy that you're interested in." "Yes." "I got some things to talk to you about." "Okay. Well, when I'm free, I'll come over." So I let her wait a few days. So I get over there, and I said, "Well, I'm here." I usually meet her in the morning, 7 o'clock, 7:30. She gets up early. So she says, "Well, I don't know how to talk to you about this." And I said, "Well, how about starting from the beginning?" She says, "Okay, I don't know how to kind of reveal it." I said, "How about the truth?" So she starts down the road of, "Well, your dad and I lived in New Haven, and some of you may know this, they were both born and raised in New Haven. So my dad went into the war. He was stationed down in Key West, Florida, in the Navy. My brother was born. Then he was out of the Navy, he ends up back in New Haven, and then he has another child, my older sister. Then he's switching from job to job coming out of the Navy. He's not really getting anchored with any particular employment. And so his brother Joe says, "Hey, you ought to be a plumber." So he takes a demotion in pay and he becomes an apprentice in a plumbing contracting operation. Well, that was not good because he's got 2 kids at home. He's got he's got a wife, and he's got to, be a man, take care of things. Here's what happened. So Friday night rolls around, they get their paychecks, all the plumbers go out, tip a pint. So my dad, being a nice old guy, he says, "Well, I'll buy the next round." Well, he can't afford to buy the next round. And so this was happening in kind of weeks on end. My mom says, "Hey, you're gonna live like that? I'm taking the 2 kids, I'm going down to Whaley Avenue." And she got an apartment down there. We went down to Whaley Avenue, kind of specked out today.
Funny.
So now
Is that the O'Brien side of the family, or Monahan?
what's
That's
that?
O'Brien, you're O'Brien.
Your dad.
My dad's a Monahan.
Monahan.
So my mom's an O'Brien. So she takes the 2 kids, gets an apartment down Whaley Avenue, and she needs some income. So she goes and works at a restaurant, and the name of the restaurant might be
Paramount.
the Paramount, which is owned by,
Mort Paper.
now incidentally, this is Norman right here. And I'm going to keep deferring to him because he's a key part of this whole story. Okay? Have you met Norman yet?
No.
Okay. And Patricia?
Hi, Norm. Another surprise.
Yeah. So, and what's your last name, Norman?
Wax.
This is what blows my mind, okay? Wax. So, my mom's working at this restaurant to make some income, and she meets this guy, and I know this is sensitive to some of the siblings in the house here. and
Doesn't bother me one bit.
Certainly to Helen. What, and Harold?
Helen's still
Go ahead, continue.
So,
Probably wasn't the first one.
so my mom catches the eye of this guy, and this guy catches the eye of my mom, and a relationship ensues. And gets sexual, obviously. So I don't know how many months, my mom can't even recall. And then my mom's version, who's still alive, says Bob Greenberg calls it off, says this is not going to work. because she actually finds out that he's married.
Well,
Then my mom says, well, that's a good idea. Again, this is my mom's version. So they call it off. And so that's the end of the relationship, except for the fact that about a month or two later, she finds out she's pregnant. Now, my dad who raised me has moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And why did he do that? Because he took seriously about getting a job, because he never wanted to separate from my mom. So he gets a job in Ann Arbor.
As a plumber?
No, working for Argus Cameras. If anybody-
I know what those are, yeah.
Okay. So he gets a phone call from my mom. Phone call goes like, I got some news to break to you. Are you still interested in getting back together? Yeah, I never wanted to leave. Well, I had a situation and I'm pregnant, and it's not your kid. So he flies back to New Haven, and they talk it out, and the deal is, okay, I'll come back. I'm gonna raise him as mine, but we're not gonna tell friends, family, and certainly not the guy that got me pregnant. The deal was, okay, that's gonna be a secret forever. That was the promise. My dad, gutsy guy, which is a part of him I wouldn't have even imagined, he says, who is the guy? So my mom says, his name, told the name, says, I wanna meet him. So my dad met Helen's husband, just to shake his hand, just to look at him, okay, and that was it. He didn't even know why he met him. I mean, Bob wouldn't have known why he met him.
So Jack Greenberg never knew that she was pregnant, they just met.
Jack Reaver did not know this.
Helen was married to Bob.
Bob never knew your mom was pregnant.
No,
I didn't know that.
right, good question, but no, never knew.
Okay.
And that's why they moved from New Haven to Ann Arbor.
Ah, they started in.
So I was born in Ann Arbor, although conceived in New Haven, somewhere on
Like the former
who knows
president.
where. So that's what she tells me. But she doesn't give up a name at that point in time. Of course. So it was emotional, you know?
I'm amazed that she remembered. She's 90.
You don't forget.
But every detail that you're telling us.
So I come home and I tell my wife, this is what I found out.
Listen, dear.
And so my wife says, I knew it. You don't look like your siblings. You don't look like your dad. You never did. You don't act like them. Blah, 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 right?
I want a divorce.
But it made perfect sense to her. Then she says, what is his name? Because the whole reason for this thing was
That's right.
health. I wanted to talk to the biological father now about how he managed his health. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I don't know anything. So I said, I didn't get his name. Well, why didn't you get his name? I said, it was emotional for my mom. So I let some days go by, and I was looking for the right time to get this divulged,
What it says
and it wasn't working. So she's getting impatient. She says, hey, do you mind if I find out? Because she makes dinners and lunches for my mom, takes care of her domestic situation. She's a good girl. So she's a good daughter-in-law. So one day, take it from there, Melinda. One day you walk over there.
When she said to me, oh, I have a question to ask you. I go, that's funny, I have a question to ask you too.
Who goes first?
So she goes first. She says, well, I want you to get rid of this dining room table and move this one here. I just, these sort of things. I go, oh, no problem. Take care of it all, no problem. And she says, so what's your question? I said, what is the name of Tom's father? She goes, Bob Greenberg. Yeah.
And that's all that was the end of the
That was the end of the conversation.
Melinda come around, she said, hey, and I'm sitting at the same dining room table. She says, hey, I know the name of your father. I said, okay. She says, it's Bob Greenberg. I said, okay. Well, what are you going to do with it? I said, we'll explore it in a minute. I'm working. I'm on my computer, I'm working. She dashes out the back door. She goes into our shop. We have a shop on our property. she goes on the computer and she starts Googling Robert Greenberg,
course.
Yeah.
Bob Greenberg, New Haven, Connecticut. And unbeknownst to me, she finds this guy by the name of Robert Greenberg. His picture's on his website. No, he's alive.
He's a
He's
dermatologist.
a dermatologist in town. He looks like Jim. He looks like me, obviously. And he's dressed up, and he wears a bow tie, which is what I often wear when I get dressed up. And so she's, unbeknownst to me, she's showing some of our close friends, hey, who does this picture look like? And she's emailing it, and she's pointing it to people. And then she brings it into me, who does this look like? And I said, you want me to think it looks like me? Well, it's Bob Greenberg. It doesn't I said, this is getting out of hand. So I go on the Ancestry.com after she leaves the room. And I forgot to do this little trick. You hit the button that says DNA matches, and it drops down a menu of all these possibilities that could be a close family resemblance.
Names?
Not names, but it's almost like a code of who these people could be.
A DNA code.
No, it's a link to somebody that populated the website with their DNA. And they said to themselves, I'll let that much go unprivate. They can contact me if they want. That's how people explore this thing. So I go through there and I pick the two closest resemblance that was on there. One was a NWAAKS. I said, what does that mean? So I sent him a message. I said, this is going to sound odd and sensitive, but my name's Tom Monahan. My mom's Roberta O'Brien. She lived in New Haven, Connecticut. And I have reason to believe that you're a relative of mine. And my biological father is Robert Greenberg. He writes back to me pretty quickly, a couple of days, and he says, you are a relative of mine, but I'm going to defer to my father, who's still alive, who's about 80 years old, and he will know the whole cast of characters. That was Norman. So he gave me the telephone number of Norman. Now Neil Wax, what is his real name? And Wax, that's his son. Lives in Brazil. And he populated the site with his DNA. Not Norman, but his son did. So he was wise enough to put me in touch with Norman. So I called Norman up. And what did I say when I first called you up?
I'm trying to remember now.
Something about, I know this is sensitive, blah, 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 blah. And then you asked me a very interesting question. Why do you want to know?
Of course.
And the second question he asked me was, how much do you want to know? Those are the two questions.
How much you really?
So, Norman, why don't you tell me what you told me, essentially, if you remember.
Well, I kind of gave an overview of the family, of who the players were. I really talked a lot about Murphy. Because that was a
grandfather.
favorite reference, being my uncle was my real favorite reference for him. And gave an overview, but remember, I left New Haven pretty quick when you guys were pretty small. So I didn't know you guys, and there was 10 years between me and your father. So there was not a lot of connection. So all I could give was no personal information of the character of the people involved. I can only give the family structure. And let you know there's 11 kids in the Greenberg family, which actually 14 if you separate the marriages out. Samuel was a busy man, to tell you the truth. And there's 11 kids in the Greenberg family. That was over my uncles and aunts.
And Murphy was a boxer?
Yeah, Murphy was a boxer for a while.
That's how I got the name Murphy.
It's Kid Murphy. I don't know if you guys.
Because it was Morris.
They did a couple of professional.
Morris didn't work for boxing. Murphy.
Pardon?
Morris, the name Morris wouldn't work for
Murphy was Morris.
No,
You always knew him as Murphy. And because he fought as Kid Murphy. That was his, I guess,
Stage
trade name.
Yeah, stage
At
name.
that time. Yeah, called the trade name. And, what else is relevant in that? But I basically gave the overview.
Which was really fascinating. So I'm writing all this down as fast as I can.
Right.
And then, one of our conversations, you said, but somebody that can give you a little bit more enhancement was a relative of yours by the name of Donna Perone.
That's right.
So,
That was Mary's oldest kid.
so I don't believe you had the contact information for me right there, you just knew. So I had a memory, so I went back onto Ancestry.com, I dropped down the menu, the DNA match, and there was a D. Perone. I said, well, that makes sense.
That was
And I had said,
Yeah, no, Murray's younger sister Mary had 2 daughters and a son that lived in Bar Harbor, Maine, and their 2 daughters ended up living in New Haven. turned
that's
out.
right, they live right in New Haven, and she's an accountant, by the way.
Tax preparer.
So I do that little message to Donna, and she writes back and she says, first words out of her mouth, and holy crap, she says. So she corresponds with me and fills me in some family history, because she's got a bunch of stuff. So she's sending me stuff, family tree stuff, and all you remember about when I was talking to you is that Bob was dead already, but he probably had a son, at least one son. That's what you told me.
That's right.
That's all I knew. Probably I had a brother, is what I knew. Donna fills me in and she says, yeah, I know that guy, and I'm friends with Donna, Vicky, and Steven, but there was kind of some distance there, so they haven't communicated in a while. But she had your contact information, and so instead of emailing you, I called you up on the phone. And I didn't get anybody to answer the phone, I left a phone message.
They never answered.
And so the message I left was who I was, do you remember the message?
He's telling me basically his story only in a nutshell version.
Right.
I'm sitting there, my jaw's dropping lower as we go. And Stephen wasn't home just then.
Yeah.
But he's outside. So I went and I said, Stephen, you gotta come in and hear this message. I said, sit down first. He said, I didn't. And I think he did sit down.
I thought you were calling for my mother to die.
No.
So
And how old you remember?
in 2 minutes, that's how I remember. 2 minutes later, I get this phone call. Steven calls me right back on the phone. He says, you remember what you said?
You want a kitty?
You back in the conversation. The first thing he said,
I don't have any money, I'm not giving away either.
that is actually true. But the first thing he actually said was, this is Steven, your long lost brother. And that's exactly what he
And
said.
then he asked for a kitty.
So I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
So he didn't freak out or anything. So we had a nice little long conversation, and we talked a couple times since then. And so he was filling me in on the gaps with Bob Greenberg. And then he gets done, Stephen could talk.
Yep.
Really?
And so,
What's the conversation listening for God's
and
sake?
at the end of this conversation, I'm going to tell you the first time was maybe 40 minutes or 45 minutes. And Stephen, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. He gets done with the conversation, he says, he apologizes. He says, you know what, I've been talking away here. He says, but I haven't asked anything about you, your siblings, your family, and I haven't even told you something else. I said, what's that? He says, you got other siblings. I'm not your only sibling. There's I'm Stephen, there's Judy, there's Jimmy, and there's Susan. I said, wow. And then I got it. So he says, if you don't mind, I'm going to call them all up and let them know, and then let them reach out to you. So did you do that?
I did.
Yeah, and what was the response?
Forget
We
about it.
only asked 2 things.
You want a kitty?
What does he want? And is he a Republican?
I'm telling you, a kitty.
If he's not a Republican, don't give him my phone number. If he didn't vote for Trump, don't give him my number.
By the way, in that first conversation, he asked me what news station I listened to.
He was trying to determine if you were a Republican or not.
Jimmy, if he watches Fox, give him my number. If he watches NSN, tell him to drop it.
That's so significant.
And that's true. That was true. So You know, and by the way, all this happened November 1st and 2nd. I'm talking to him, I'm talking to him, I'm talking to Vicky, November 1st and 2nd, just 3 months ago. So, Stephen tips me off that Susan is probably gonna reach out to me, my younger sister. So, I'm sitting at my mom's house visiting her in the morning, and the phone rings. Susan's calling me. So I put her on speakerphone. I said, well, I'm glad to meet you. My mom's sitting right there. I mean, just close. And so she says, welcome to the family. This is such a surprise, blah, blah, blah. Then I hear Helen in the background. And so Helen, I said, is that Helen in the background? Yeah.
That would be my mother.
And she says, I said, Helen, I'm sorry to, meet you under these circumstances. You remember what she said to me right off the bat? Don't worry about it.
That's Helen.
So Susan tells me at that moment, in front of my mother, who's sitting right next to me, when I broke the news to Helen, my mother, what had happened, she said, in unison, like stereo, we're not surprised. So that's why that part didn't be a problem. But you know what was good about that is it was healing for my mother to hear that. Because she's been keeping this secret for 64 years.
Wow. I bet she's sleeping better these days.
I think she's a little still processing.
At the time, your mother didn't know that Bob had other children,
Right.
had children.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, she didn't know he was married.
She knew his.
Then she found out she was married. Then she found out later he had kids.
No.
But she didn't know how many. And then I was showing my mom pictures. All the pictures that Donna Perone sent, and Stephen, Vicky sent, and Norman sent. I'm showing her the pictures. This is real. This is not a make-up story. So it kind of helped her a little bit. So Susan reached out and she said, I got an invitation to come down. Stephen, you're going down to see Helen for her birthday and Thanksgiving celebration. So I was going on a business trip. So I made one more day in front of my business trip. I flew down there and I met Helen for the first time, Susan and Stephen. So that was the week after Thanksgiving. So that was, epic. But still, I haven't met this guy yet. I talked to him, or email exchange, or Judy. So finally, what happened? We had a little email exchange.
Yeah.
And actually, what you don't know. You have enough here? Are you ready? So Susan. Judy. Yeah. So I'm making a good relationship with Alan and Susan. And Jimmy called us while I'm standing right in Susan's house. And Susan answers the phone. And she says, yeah, Tom's here. You want to talk to him? And she goes like this to hand me the phone. And what did I hear?
I don't remember.
Click.
That's why you don't remember.
So he's processing it pretty quick. Yeah. So I'll give that to him. So it was funny that I said, well, that's going to take a while. And the good news is, it did take a while, but we've been exchanging emails, and he finally called me up last week. He said, we better talk. You're coming out to Haven. And then the next we went out to dinner last night. That was a good idea because he didn't want to meet me in front of all his friends without meeting me first. That was good. Yeah. So that's where we're at today.
Here we are today.
All right,
Questions?
here's the red shirt, Tom. Thank you for your story. I want to tell you, you have a truly wonderful family.